Happy day of the week, Wealthy Nation. I'm Adrian, and today we're talking about neoliberalism some more, and we're going to focus on the consolidation of entire industries into singular, massive, global megacorporations. So one of the things about business today is that it's all profit first. You want to make the most money possible. You want to continuously provide returns to your shareholders, and so there are a couple main ways to do that. You can continuously improve efficiency so that your profits keep on growing. You become more efficient with the same resources, and your profits will grow that way. That's hard to do, especially after a certain point. There's usually a floor and a ceiling to efficiency. The other thing you can do is just keep on growing. And that one feels less endless, feels less constrained, so that's the direction that most companies go. They just grow to continuously increase their profits and provide the shareholder returns. So a consequence of that is that large companies see it as a growth tactic, and it is a growth tactic, to acquire other companies. So the acquisition is very common. In entrepreneurship, one of the main goals of starting a company is to be acquired at some point. A lot of founders have that as their goal from the very beginning, is to start a company that will be acquired. It's become the norm at these large companies. It's more cost effective to let these startups test the waters for you than to fund your own R&D division. You don't need to have your own research and development going on. Go let somebody else try it out, and if they're successful, you can acquire them. So that's kind of the strategy that we've seen these large companies go, and it has essentially led to entire industries being condensed down into enormous companies. And for what that means for us is we have much fewer choices. And in some videos we'll talk about Barry Schwartz and the paradox of choice. Too much choice is bad. It makes us less happy with the choice that we make. But there's a danger here in this neoliberal reality, which is the fact that we're given the illusion of choice. The fact that these companies are smart. They know we don't just want everything to be bland and the same. So depending on where you are in the country, for example, the same Arrowhead water is probably called different things. Depending on where you are in the country or in the world, these brands will rebrand their own product. So they're giving us the illusion of choice here. So let's dive into some of these. Real quick, we'll start with the definition of neoliberalism, if this is your first video with us. What neoliberalism means is it's an ideology that puts profit before people. Puts profit before people not just in the economic sense and how we do business, but also in the political sense, how we make our decisions there and how we define policies, for example, and also in our society. So the fact that it is increasingly difficult to go exist somewhere without spending money to be there. Most public spaces are being turned private because it's more profitable that way. That's a consequence of neoliberalism. So that's one. That's the definition of neoliberalism there. And how it affects us, because that sounds like, well, sure, businesses, they exist to make a profit. That's what they're here to do, right? But it affects us in a really serious way, because on the receiving end, our quality of life decreases because the quality of products and services are gradually sacrificed for profit. All products and services eventually become a commodity, and then it becomes undercutting other businesses so that you can have the most profit. Our mental and physical health is suffering because we're not thought of as humans. We're redefined as Homo economicus. Our sole purpose is to work and consume. Make money and then spend it. Third, which will be the subject of this video, entire industries are consolidated into singular multinational companies. We'll talk about that in a second. Fourth, the economy is open to exploitation by individuals who are unconstrained by social responsibility. I encourage you to go check out our video about the Dear Pharma Bro Martin Shkreli if you're curious about the exploitation angle, number 4 there. Number 3 is what we're going to focus on here, which is the consolidation of all these industries into singular megacorporations. Well, what do I mean by that? When you go to the grocery store, there are lots of brands, hundreds of brands, multiple hundreds of brands, but in actuality, Those brands are controlled by a very select few companies. These 11 companies control multiple hundred brands. So when you see a commercial, right, you see a commercial that is M&M's versus Skittles, bah, right? That doesn't matter because it's all going to Mars. Mars Corporation owns the both of those. Left Twix, right Twix, come on, you're kidding me. So we're given the illusion of choice here. You can be a Skittles person or an M&M's person. But what does that actually mean? Nothing, because all of those profits are going to these handful of companies. So we see this is the consumer packaged good companies, and a little bit of overlap with the food and beverage companies of our world here. But essentially, if you look at this, Coca-Cola, Unilever, PepsiCo, Coke and Pepsi might be the last genuine brand rivalry that we have, and let me tell you, they hate each other. They hate each other. Do not joke about cracking a Pepsi inside a Coke distribution warehouse. I say this from experience. They don't even like to joke. They don't even like to kid around. They hate each other. So in any case, that's one of the last real brand rivalries. Everything else is essentially an illusion of choice for us as the consumer that all goes into this hierarchical structure. It's not just them, it's not just CPGs, consumer packaged goods, it's also our media companies. If we take a look at 1983, just about 40 years ago, which by the way, everything with neoliberalism, all the problems of our current world trace back to the 80s. It all started in the 80s. That's my own gleaning from everything that I've seen. 80s, ridiculous. 1983, there were 50 companies that owned 90% of U.S. American media. Fast forward to 2011, when this study was conducted, only 6 companies own 90% of American media. And the illusion of choice is really important for our media because we think that we're getting objective journalism. But we're actually not. We're getting journalism where it is true, it is the case, it is a fact of our current reality that there are 6 people at the top of these companies that have the ultimate veto power for everything that goes on their network. All of their networks. So that's why we're in this situation that we're in right now, where we see that news organizations are farcical at this point. It's ridiculous what they're talking about because it's so clearly guided along this preset ideology. So with news, media organizations, media companies, we see this as a big issue in neoliberalism. The consolidation of entire industries into singular megacorporations poses a serious problem for all of us because we're, in a very real way, we're being deceived. So that's neoliberalism today. Happy day of the week to you. This has been Share the Wealth, and I'm Adrian.